It all began with a smirk, a twitch of Chris Webber's lips during a casual interview that nobody expected to explode. And in that moment, a moment laced with decades of buried secrets, shadowed truths, and aching betrayals, the world stopped for Doug Christie, the man once hailed as the very definition of loyalty, the husband who worshipped Jackie Christie with the kind of reverence only found in fairy tales or delusions, depending on where you stood. But now, that entire mythology was scorched into ash by one sentence, simple, sharp, surgical, uttered by a man who had once sat courtside as friend, brother, uncle to the Christie family. I loved her before Doug ever knew she existed. And just like that, the mask shattered, the illusion shattered, the entire 20-year saga of basketball wives, carefully curated marriage goals, and public declarations of love crumbled beneath the weight of a truth no longer willing to hide. The internet ignited instantly. Threads, think pieces, TikToks, YouTube breakdowns, fans began dissecting VH1 reruns with courtroom-level scrutiny, pulling freeze frames, zooming in on side eyes, comparing timelines, tracking Jackie's body language every time Chris Webber's name was mentioned, and suddenly everyone saw it. The tension, the flinch, the ghost of something unsaid lurking in every scene. Then, the real eruption began when Doug reportedly walked off the set of an ESPN taping, tore off his mic mid-sentence, and disappeared, leaving behind a trail of confusion and a marriage now engulfed in public suspicion. But it wasn't just words. No. Chris brought receipts. Grainy Polaroids dated '98 showing Jackie curled into his lap in a Detroit hotel room, a locket with C+J engraved in it, old-school hotel keycards preserved like trophies, and the smoking gun. A voicemail left just last year, Jackie's voice shaky, breathless, whispering, "I wish things were different." A whisper so damning it echoed through the halls of gossip channels, fan forums, and the hollow chambers of Doug's silence. And then came the revelation that took this from scandal to implosion. A leaked insider tip that Doug had recently taken a paternity test. And the results? He was not the biological father of Chantel Christie, the daughter he had raised, protected, loved and written poetry for, the daughter he once called his life's purpose. And now, the speculation turned sinister because the anonymous source named Chris Webber as the potential biological father. The blow was biblical. Chris's own sister allegedly submitted an affidavit confirming that Jackie had stayed in their Detroit family home for weeks after giving birth, figuring out her next move. And if that wasn't enough, fans started pulling Jackie's old Instagram posts and commenting with pure venom. So Chantel's last name should be Webber? You had Doug writing poetry for a lie, and you're worse than a soap opera villain. Jackie said nothing. No denial, no apology. No carefully written note. That smile, cold, defiant, a calculated flicker of pride or delusion, was all it took to confirm what millions were beginning to suspect. Jackie Christie wasn't a woman drowning in remorse. She was a woman still holding the cards, still playing the long game even as her kingdom burned behind her, and as the clip of her vanishing into that black SUV looped endlessly across every platform, the silence from Doug became its own headline, its own painful punctuation to a love story gone violently off script. But Chris Webber wasn't done. Not by a long shot, because 2 nights later, on a little-known podcast with a rickety YouTube backdrop and barely 100 live viewers, Chris detonated the next bomb. "We were together before the fame, before the cameras, before she ever said, 'I do' to Doug," he said, voice calm, almost nostalgic, and the host, stunned, leaned in and asked, "Romantically?" And Chris laughed, not cruelly, but knowingly, before replying, "Let's just say we made memories, hotel rooms, secret trips, the kind of things you don't forget." And just like that, Jackie's facade, the reality TV queen, the ride-or-die wife, the spiritually anointed matriarch, crumbled in the eyes of fans who had rooted for her for over 2 decades. Because now, what had once seemed eccentric, even charming, the control, the jealousy, the need to orchestrate every inch of Doug's life, was being recontextualized as a smokescreen, a performance designed to protect the very lie she never wanted to surface. The internet became a war zone. VH1 clips from 2001 were resurrected. Every glance Jackie made when Chris's name was even mentioned, every twitch in her jawline or quick change of subject, now took on the weight of evidence. Then came the image. An old, blurred, nearly forgotten photo from a 2000 NBA All-Star afterparty, where in the far corner, barely in frame, Jackie stood beside Chris, their hands nearly touching, their eyes unmistakably locked. And that image, that Instagram live from Chris Webber's sister, wasn't just a moment. It was a reckoning, a bomb dropped in real time with receipts echoing in every syllable. And the internet, once buzzing with conspiracy, now had confirmation from blood, from someone who held baby Chantel, who opened the door to Jackie Christie, not as a visitor, but as family. And that sealed it. Jackie wasn't just guilty of a long-forgotten fling or a misstep in judgment. She had orchestrated an entire second life, a double narrative that spanned decades, platforms, and parenting. And at the center of it all was Doug Christie, the man who gave up everything for her, his autonomy, his privacy, his voice, and now stood publicly dismantled, heartbroken not just as a husband, but as a father questioning every memory, every bedtime story, every dance recital where he cheered for a daughter that may not even carry his blood. And the world watched as his quiet grief metastasized into something darker. Legal fury. Reports emerged that Doug's legal team had filed an emergency motion, not for divorce yet, but for financial guardianship over their shared assets, citing Jackie's pattern of deception and financial entanglement with a third party, and fans knew exactly what that meant. The alleged joint shell account, Jack Chris Holdings LLC, wasn't just scandalous, it was now legally relevant. Meanwhile, Jackie remained in hiding, her face missing from every promo, her name whispered in green rooms like a curse. And Doug, once mocked for his submissiveness, now earned a different kind of respect. The tragic hero caught in a modern-day Greek tragedy of betrayal and legacy. And the final insult came when producers tried to pitch Jackie on a redemption arc. A sit-down special, a docuseries called Jackie Unfiltered, a path to rebuild her image, and Doug reportedly shut it down before it could even take shape. And then, in what would become the clip that shattered hearts worldwide, Doug finally broke his silence. Not with a clapback, not with revenge, but with calm devastation. Filmed from a local gym in his community, sitting on a bench in a plain t-shirt, no glam, no theatrics, he looked into the camera and spoke. I gave my life to someone who wasn't honest. I stayed loyal, I stayed faithful, I stayed present, and in return, I got lied to, on camera, off camera, for decades. His voice cracked only once when he paused before adding, Don't ignore your gut. Love hard, yes, but not blind. That clip hit 15 million views in 48 hours. NBA legends reposted it. Fans wept. And while Doug's words offered no accusations, no names, the silence in them screamed louder than any confession Jackie could make. And just as it seemed the public had chosen sides, the fire flared again. TMZ dropped a new bomb. Chris Webber's family had submitted a folder, yes, a folder, of physical evidence to a legal team involved in Doug's motion, including an email chain between Jackie and Chris from 6 months ago, with one message from Jackie ending in, I still think of you. Always will. But what gutted everyone was the birthday card. Handwritten, postmarked, and signed by Jackie herself, addressed to Chris with the words, You changed me. You still do. Forever, Jay. That one artifact became gospel, proof that not only had Jackie never truly let go of Chris, but that even while living as Doug's wife, as his ride or die, she had kept a secret altar lit for the man she never stopped loving. It wasn't just betrayal. It was emotional treason. And Doug, learning all of this not from Jackie, not from confession, but from the public unfolding of chaos, reportedly muttered to a friend after seeing the card, She made me the fool. And the world watched, not with sympathy, but with addiction. And that quote? It broke people. TikTok therapists weighed in. Podcasters debated if forgiveness was possible. And as fans dissected old Basketball Wives episodes like a true crime series, one Reddit thread went nuclear, breaking down a timeline that placed Jackie's mysterious business trip during Chantel's birth exactly at the same time Chris was scheduled for an event in Detroit. even matching airport paparazzi photos with Jackie's blurred silhouette in the background. The thread gained 80,000 upvotes in under a day, and suddenly what had felt like internet gossip became something else: historical revisionism. Everything fans thought they knew about Jackie, Doug, and their family was now up for debate, and still, Jackie said nothing. Not a denial, not a note, not a single post. The woman who once posted 3 times a day about loyalty, love, and the Lord had vanished into a void of silence, and even her closest allies were jumping ship. Her podcast co-host issued a statement announcing the show was on pause indefinitely, and VH1 scrubbed her content from their homepage. And through all of this, Doug never raised his voice. He never attacked. Because just when the internet thought the bottom had dropped out, it turned out we were still falling. Because everything that came before was just the prelude to the moment everything truly cracked wide open. When Jackie, who had stayed silent through the firestorm, was finally spotted again, not on a red carpet or reality set, but hunched over at a gas station pump, alone. No ring, no glam team, no designer purse, just sweatpants, swollen eyes, and a face that looked like it had aged 10 years in a single week. And that image, raw and unfiltered, was the final proof to millions that her empire had truly collapsed. But even then, the internet wasn't done with her, because Chris Webber's family, tired of being accused of clout chasing, dropped one final payload: new leaked evidence, emails, voicemails, a time-stamped video from 2002 showing Jackie and Chris tangled in hotel sheets, whispering things no wife should say to anyone but her husband, and the metadata matched a date that directly conflicted with a time Jackie had publicly claimed she was at a marriage retreat with Doug. And that video, confirmed by forensic analysts to be authentic, destroyed any hope of ambiguity. The narrative was no longer about love lost. It was about decades of deception weaponized under the disguise of loyalty and sanctified image building. And the backlash? Biblical. Jackie's brand partnership severed ties. She was dropped from 3 major endorsements in a single day, and producers from Basketball Wives confirmed she would not be returning for the upcoming season, stating the show needed a new chapter, a new voice. And meanwhile, Doug, now living in a private condo outside Sacramento, began receiving thousands of letters, DMs, even fan art, people calling him a symbol of unconditional love betrayed, and still, he said nothing. Until one night, he went live again, standing in the gym's back court, alone, basketball in hand, and simply said, "I don't want pity, I want peace." And peace only comes when you stop lying to yourself about who someone really is. And the way his voice cracked on that final word sent chills across millions of screens. But if you thought that was the end, you don't know how deep this goes. Because Chantel, the daughter caught in the middle, finally broke her silence with a midnight Instagram live. Face bare, eyes puffy, hands trembling as she looked straight into the lens and said, "I've spent my whole life calling a man dad, and now I don't know who I am. I don't know where I come from. I don't know who to trust, and I'm not ready to forgive either of them." And that moment, raw, unscripted, painfully human, turned this from celebrity gossip